Okay, go ahead.
So you're telling me that the market, everybody, the PSA being the gold standard of sports cards, everybody's wrong.
Yes.
You got it right.
Well, yeah, I do.
That you figured it out and everybody else.
Because PSA 10s, you're paying premium dollar for what?
Because it's a premium card.
The card is the same in every holder. It doesn't matter the piece of plastic that it's in unless you're
But it does.
Oh my God.
The market sets the pricing of the whole damn thing.
Oh my God. Okay.
I don't even know why you're like debating about this. Like, why are you getting so worked up about it?
Because
So
one
heated over nothing.
one of us is right and the other one's a friggin' idiot.
Oh my God, dude.
All right.
Let's just.
Okay.
No, let's do this. Let's do this the right way. So you make your points. I'm going to go over on my phone and I'm going to make my damn points.
Okay.
And we're going to sit down in the studio and we'll do this.
All right. Let's do it.
All right.
Let's go. Let's go.
All right. Cool Factor Cards on the fly episode. PSA 10 is the gold standard. Welcome. Thank you for joining us. You're about to see, quite honestly, I know you're a pretty sharp dude, so we'll see how this goes. But
slaying this debate.
There is, you're making the point that what exactly?
PSA 10s are overrated. That's it.
That's it?
Yeah, it's not that PSA is overrated, but it's specifically PSA 10s are overrated.
Okay. Well,
Yeah.
PSA 10 is, inarguably, I think we can agree on this, the gold standard. When it comes to grading cards, when it comes to buying cards, when it comes to the market, you go to a card show, everybody wants PSA 10. They're super liquid. If I'm set up at the show and I got a CJ Stroud, PSA 10 next to an SGC 10 next to a BGS, then the PSA 10 is going to move. That is the brand. It's the thing that is most desired.
Sure, I don't disagree with what you're saying, but like now imagine I'm at the card show, there's 10 people, we're all standing at your table, and there's those 3 cards there. We're all going to be fighting for that PSA 10. All that does is what?
Well, somebody's going to get it, and they might pay a premium for it.
Yeah, so you got to pay a premium. It's driving up prices. Great. Now, most people, we know that people don't want to buy above comps. So what? Is it the first person that just pays full dollar? And
For
gets
sure.
it? Okay. But why would
Which
I...
sets, that's the whole point. It sets that value.
Why-
It sets that gold standard.
Why would I, as a buyer, want more competition when I'm buying something? Now, I buy cards as an investment. So, right, you go buy a stock on Wall Street.
Sure.
Right? Everybody races to go buy that stock. And it goes up and up and up and up and up. And that's great when you buy low and you watch it skyrocket. But
Okay.
cards don't work the same way. Everybody rushes to go buy something. It might bump short term, but Anthony Edwards is a great example. You buy,
Just had a really
just
great...
had this huge bump, right? They beat the Nuggets in Game 7.
And he was
They're-
the story of the
They're
playoffs.
comparing him to Michael Jordan.
Yeah, it was a little
He's
dramatic.
amazing, right? Nobody's better than Anthony Edwards. His PSA 10s, optic, blue velocity, blah blah, whatever, goes from $100 and some odd dollars to $300 in a week.
Well, it's kind of the point.
Yeah, and now
People bought the PSA 10s. That was the card they
and
wanted.
now it's back down to where it was before all that. So when everybody got excited and rushed to go get those PSA 10s, they're all buying at these higher prices because they're the gold standard, right? There's more competition. It's driving the market up, but it's only PSA 10s that are really skyrocketing like that.
Okay, there's a pro and con here because that's kind of my point. So volatility when it comes to like events happening, playoffs, stuff like that. Okay, that's kind of an outlier to the conversation, obviously. But when it comes to pricing, I'm making the argument that PSA 10s are the stable card to buy. For me, it's all about stability. I want to buy a PSA 10. It's going to be a good investment. It's going to be a good purchase. I know where my money is in that card.
Sure. I get what you're saying, that PSA is where they're going to start. But what I'm saying is the PSA 10 is the comp that people are going to look at. So if you buy it...
Which I feel like you're making my point, but...
I'm not disagreeing with you that PSA 10s are stable, right? Like, I understand your point. What I'm saying is that's not where the value is.
So where's the value?
The value is with all the other card brands. Your SGC 10s, SGC 95s, BGS 95s.
This was your big point.
This was my whole point, which is...
That there's an angle that I'm not thinking about.
Well, because we're buying for different reasons, right? Like, I either buy a card because I want to keep it, in which case I don't care what the grade is. So like I might go buy a BGS 8.5 because it's 20% of the price of a PSA 10.
But it's not a PSA 10.
It's not, but okay, fine. I'll go buy a BGS 9.5 to make you feel a little bit better. They're both gem mint.
Uh-huh.
Okay, so a BGS 9.5 is what? 35 to 45% of the price of a PSA 10?
BGS, probably.
BGS 9.5?
Yeah,
Sure,
probably. Because nobody wants Beckett.
Okay, well, I don't disagree with you that nobody wants Beckett, but I want value. So if I can get the same exact piece of cardboard in a slightly different piece of plastic, and both of them say gem mint on it, why do I care if it's a PSA 10 or a BGS 9.5? I like, it just doesn't mean anything to me.
you. I get it. Now, but see, I get that BGS, and all I'm thinking of is I crack and resubmit this thing to make it that PSA 10 that I wanted in the first place.
Yeah, I do that too sometimes, but I do that if I know I want to resell something. Like if it's something I'm going to keep, I don't really care if it's in a BGS 9.5 holder. But if I'm going to sell it, sure, sometimes I'll do that.
You'll take a BGS? See, I just don't want it.
Some of my best cards are BGS 9.5s.
See,
my two best cards in my collection are BGS 9.5s.
I would have to sincerely think if I want the BGS 9.5 versus cracking it, resubbing, and taking a PSA 9.
But why? Why do you want a PSA 9?
Because PSA is the gold standard. PSA 10, if you got a shot at the PSA 10, that's going to be a more valuable card. It's going to be a more liquid card. It's going to be a more movable card.
No, you have like tunnel vision right now. Imagine it's not 2020 to today.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you go back a few years ago, like at one point BGS was PSA, right?
True.
They were switched. But
True.
even
for a long time.
For a very long time. But Dr. Beckett, shout out. But at a certain point, like there are cards where the pricing goes, PSA 9, BGS 9.5, PSA 10, BGS 10, BGS 10 black label, right?
Yeah.
So a 9.5 should always theoretically sell for more than a PSA 9. Now for more modern cards, I know that's not happening as much today, but that's because people aren't really submitting to BGS anymore.
Yeah, there's not really as much opportunity.
There's not as much opportunity. And also, like, people are buying stuff to flip it. Like, there's probably far less collecting right now. People just view this as, like, the hot way to make money.
Flipping gets down to a lot of this, because there's either flipping, like, think about this in, like, the terms of real estate, right? There's, like, the fix and flip.
Yep.
So, or the fix and hold. And if you, depending on what you're doing, that card might change my tolerability to entertain alternative grading companies.
Sure. You're right. Okay. So I get it, right? If you want to buy something and flip it, you're probably going to send it to PSA because it gets you the most, like, the highest dollar amount.
Like return on investment.
Well, no.
Well, it depends what you bought it for.
Not return on investment. And this is where I know we've argued about this in the past, which is PSA 10s, if you sell them, I don't know, within a reasonable amount of time after grading, like you're probably going to make a decent amount of money, especially if you're first to market or towards
theoretically,
first to market,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
But you might make more dollars, like net dollars, but your percentage return is going to be less because you have to spend more to grade with PSA, especially for higher end cards. The more a card is worth, the more you have to spend to grade it with PSA.
Sure.
And it takes 50 to 70 days to get the card back. So you open a box of cards. Oh, I'm so happy. Look, this Victor Wembanyama I got. Oh, sweet. And then you send it off to PSA, and it takes 4 months to get it back.
Yeah,
and in that time,
which is obviously a problem.
And in that time, 5,000 other people have sent in the same card, or they're paying a premium to get it back faster, in which case they're the ones actually making money. And then when the market finally gets your card, demand could be down, he could get hurt.
So that's a point that I think I'm going to concede on, because at the end of the day, especially if you're ripping wax and submitting, or you're breaking and submitting, like getting that card back from PSA so that you can get rid of it quickly really matter. Because there are cards that we have pulled during the basketball season that we are still waiting on to come back and basketball season's over.
Yeah, cool.
Which is a big problem.
Now, maybe you'll get it back before next season, in which case you can sell before the bump.
Yeah, it's hit the hype of the new season. Yeah,
well, I don't even know when the basketball season starts.
It's October.
Sure. Halloween, maybe. But, you know, I like sending stuff to SGC.
Those turn times are nice.
I know that even if I get a 10, I'm not going to get the same dollar value as a PSA 10.
Ultimately, it's going to be less valuable.
But I, opened a box of Top Series 2. Cool. SGC says $9 a card. We'll have it back to you in 5 days.
Yeah.
Okay. I can take base
Especially
cards.
if it's a mid-range card or a base card.
Yeah, I could take a base rookie, some of the bigger name guys, it's like a Gunnar Henderson or a Yamamoto or whoever, for $9 plus shipping and whatever else, insurance when it comes back to you. Maybe I'm all in on that card for $15. If it comes back at 10, I can't sell that for 40.
Okay.
For
yeah,
30,
no,
right?
You're right.
Right.
You're
There's 100% plus ROI there. If it's a 10 and it's still a good ROI, even if it's a 9.5 versus a PSA 10, if it's going to cost me $17 to grade the card, plus I got to ship it, then I got to send it back, and it's going to take 70 business days. Like, next thing you know, that turns into $25 a card, and if it maybe gets a 10, I could sell it for, $40-$50.
No, that's a
5 months from now.
That is an absolutely valid point.
Right.
Especially when you take into consideration the specials, which I feel like SGC runs a lot.
The basketball special?
Yeah.
I know the basketball special
and
is
you
good.
know that I was
$12
actually
right
intending to send some in. But that's because there's a lot of cards that I want that I think, quite honestly, like, if you could get dollar for dollar SGC slab to PSA slab, I want the SGC slab to be more value. I wish that they were, because I think they look better. I think the PSA slab is often tacky. It's simple.
Bold words for the gold standard.
I'm going to say... All right, you got me
tacky.
There.
It's the gold standard.
It is, though, from an investment and dollar standpoint.
Classless. Yeah.
I will say I do prefer the SGC slab look.
Yeah.
I wish that they did. I wish that they were comparable on resale, because I think that tuxedo slab looks sharp.
Yeah, look, there's a time and a place for all the brands. My whole argument, though, is that when you are buying a card that is already a PSA 10, there's nowhere to go for it, really. You're like, what are you waiting for? It's not even performance-based half the time.
From
it's
a flip investment standpoint, you're right.
It's hype-based, so you're just hoping that something happens and the price goes up. Like, just not how it works, in my opinion. Now, I do agree with you that buying PSA 10s are great for, feeding market demand and, like, when you set up at card shows and all that, but you have to buy at a discount, right? You've got to go get off of eBay or whatever other
you got to go buy somewhere for 70% to make 80.
Yeah, you're effectively wholesaling it, right? So you're going to buy at a discount so you can buy low and sell low, which we've already talked about before on this show, right? Is if I can buy it at a good deal, I can offer someone a good deal, and they get to buy a PSA 10 that they want, and I make a couple bucks. But if you go buy it on eBay, what are you going to do?
Okay,
you're going to pay taxes and fees.
This is where I think we find a middle ground, which is you're making the point that there's more dollars to be made avoiding PSA 10.
That, and also things that I want to collect. I personally don't care what slab it's in. I care about the card and the scarcity, and whether or not it's something I can find anywhere else.
And I care about the quality of my collection, in which case...
But, like, the card is the card, right? It's like, if you have a PSA 10 and I have an SGC 10, they're both gem mint. Like, who cares? BGS 9.
A lot of people care.
Well, you're all stupid, okay? I don't know what to tell you. My whole argument here is, if I'm going to keep something, I'm going to just try to get it for the right price for me.
Because you're a collector.
Because I'm a collector, right? And also, like, I'm a collector with a budget, so I'm not going to go
Budget's conscious makes sense.
Right? It's whatever. I don't know what a PSA 10 versus a BGS 9.5 is worth these days, but, like, let's say it's 3x.
Because we're not even getting into the grading scales of, like, a 9 versus a 9.5 versus a SGC 10 9.5. Like, if you here's a legitimate question. If I have a card that I'm thinking is borderline, a 9.5, where if I submit it to PSA, which doesn't do 9.5s, could go either way, but I want that 10.
Yep.
Where are you sending that card?
Well,
are you going to send it to SGC, or are you going to send it to PSA and hope for the 10?
almost certainly I'm going to send it to SGC because it's cheaper. Generally, that's always something I'm thinking about. The grade, right? If it's something that's got like maybe one little ding, right? If I'm talking about a 9.5 or a 10, and I'm pretty sure it's going to be a 9.5, I'm going to send it to SGC. If it's
because you'd rather have an SGC 9.5 than a PSA 9.
If I'm going to sell it, yes, because people, you've said it yourself, right? People want PSA 10s. People want to try to make money on this, so they'll buy the SGC 9.5 so they can crack it and regrade it much more frequently than they'll buy a PSA 9. Because what are you going to do? Crack it and send it back to PSA?
See, and for me, if I got 10 cards and they're all borderline 9s or 10s,
yeah,
some of them are going to fall to 9s, and some of them I'm going to get lucky and are going to hit 10, and I think I'm going to average out.
Lucky.
And I'm going to get
word.
lucky.
Yeah, lucky. Look, it again, like this is all dependent on what you're doing it for. But if I was going to send something in to grade with the intention of selling it, the resale market is more interested in buying things like SGC 9.5s and BGS 9.5s specifically because they want to cross them over to PSA. If you buy something that's got good grades, like I'm sure there are a high frequency of those that cross over well.
And honestly, I'd like to see more. I think the problem is PSA has such a dominant market.
Well, I know. We were talking about
if
this
there was
earlier.
more 9.5s in the marketplace, I think that there's maybe more of an argument for that. I think that I'd like to see more movement of SGC 9.5s.
Well, this feels like just a matter of time, right? Like Collectors Universe bought SGC.
At the end of the day.
PSA and SGC are either going to become one company and we'll get subgrades or,
I'm really curious to see what
partial
happens
grades, or they'll both stay in their lane, but these two obviously are going to rise to the top. I mean, they're already at the top.
They are the same corporation.
SGC is second now, in my opinion.
By a mile, yeah, I think.
So yeah, I don't know, man. I don't hate on what you're doing. I just wouldn't do it myself. That's
all right. So I think that I think it depends what you're doing with the card.
Yep.
It depends where you started and what price you paid.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously. I don't know. I get back to the whole liquidity thing, but ultimately, if you're the buyer, I guess it's up to you. What do you want? What do you like? What are your intentions?
This whole hobby is about personal preferences, right? Like I'm going to do what I like, and you're going to do what you like, and quite frankly, none of the rest matters.
You know, I'm going to concede again.
Where?
You're a better investor than I am. I'm just going to say it.
I don't know. Tell my wife that.
You got the eye and the smarts to figure this stuff out. And I'm just like, just give me the simple, stable PSA thing.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, I'll take the compliment. But I would not say I'm the most savvy investor. There are some other good ones. I just kind of follow along, and I think I steal some good ideas. So shout out Deep Value Investor on Instagram.
We'll check that guy.
He's pushing early 2000s nostalgia, right? Like Carmelo, Chris Paul,
that's a
Harden,
market.
Russell Westbrook. Nobody's talking about those guys.
Absolutely.
But he always says you're gonna go buy a Topps Chrome Gold refractor.
It's
rookie.
a quiet era for cards that's kind of untapped right now, and especially as when you think about it, I'm all about 90s stuff. Well, there's a generation behind me that's gonna be all about early 2000 stuff.
Very true. Yeah, I mean, you and I, we're basically the same age.
Which is why I think vintage is maybe on its way out because their collector base is dying.
Maybe.
Go talk to any 22-year-old. They don't give a crap about a lot of those cards.
Yeah.
The big names will always be the big names. But anyway, let's wrap this up.
Yeah.
That's Cool Factor Cards. I don't know. Throw your thoughts in the comments. I would love to continue this debate down below. We respond to everything, so do the thing.
Tell them why I'm right. Just saying.
All right. That's it.
Shameless plug.
Let's hear it.
Yeah.
Let's hear it. Come at us.
Thanks, folks.
That's Cool Factor Cards. See you soon.